Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Breathe Motivation. My name's Anthony Hester. I'm your host for this show. So glad to join you this week. I hope you guys have an amazing week. I hope you guys are doing everything that you guys enjoy doing. My goal today is to help you find a little bit of purpose and passion in your day-to-day life, and we'll continue to do that. So thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get started. So let's start off with the definition. The definition for this week is run. So it's to move at a speed faster than a walk, never having both or all the feet on the ground at the same time. Now we have 2 feet. I mean, I guess animals have, 8 feet, right? Spiders have 8, and I guess they're not even feet. I guess I don't even know what you call them. My brain is fried. But anyway, so the definition is very kind of near and dear to me because, as I was actually walking, I was walking my dogs down the street, and, when I do that, I have these ideas just kind of pop in my head. I was kind of stuck on where I wanted to go with this episode today. But as I was walking, these ideas, I turned on some music. It's a great playlist. It's called Focus on Spotify. So if you have that, check that out and listen to that. It's a great playlist. But one of the biggest things that I look at is, these ideas just kind of pop in my head, whenever I'm stuck or I'm thinking, I'm almost overthinking. I think so much that I have a tough time really finding these subjects. But I was very glad that this idea popped in my head. And it's not even really an idea. I guess it was a look inside myself and my life, right? A lot of us tend to run away from life. And that was something that, I personally feel like I've done, for several years. And there's times where I go through instances of just kind of running away from myself or running away from, life. And I was just wondering, and I'm sure, and I don't want to assume, but I assume a lot of you guys go through that same thing. And it's frustrating. It's so frustrating when you're running away from life because you don't know what you want out of life. Or you're running away from yourself because you're so uncomfortable being with yourself. And I know over life that, over time, I've done this myself personally. And I go through it every once in a while. I was lucky to have, a couple weeks off before I transitioned into another job. And I am so glad that I have that. But a lot of the times when I'm sitting here, I have a lot of time to think. And if you don't know me, by this podcast or me in person, I am a overthinker by far. I'm an overthinker. I am, one of the biggest and one of the hardest people on myself. And a lot of it comes from the strive of perfection. And perfection is a dangerous, dangerous thing. And that's why I always look at perfection and I kind of wonder, how can I, kind of get over this perfection or this feeling to be perfect? Because at the end of the day, none of us really are perfect. And I think a lot of us are chasing perfection, right? So when you chase perfection, you start to, really chase who you are, or you're trying to chase this, imaginary person, right? I look at it as I'm trying to, catch this imaginary Anthony, right? To be the best person I can be, the best husband, the best son, the best brother, the best friend, the best worker. I'm trying to be the best at everything I can. And what I, really find myself doing is running myself down. And I get so just, some of the words that come to my mind when I was thinking about this, it's almost like, I'm numb. I'm numb to life. I'm numb to the feeling of, all the great things that are around me because I'm so focused and I'm in my head so much of trying to be perfect at all these things. I'm numb, right? I feel this sense of insecurity because I feel like I don't know who I am. And I don't know if a lot of you guys feel that same way, but a lot of people that I talk to, especially at this age and, growing up from high school to your early 30s, and I've even talked to people that are in their 50s and still don't understand who they are, right? You find this comfort within yourself to, withdraw, right? That's one of my easiest things that I do is I withdraw from people, right? I like to withdraw because I feel so overwhelmed. Because I have this fear of, not being perfect and not being the best son or being the best husband or being the best, person, right? And that can come across very insecure, right? Or fake, right? Or, I'm wearing that mask and I put on that mask of trying to be perfect and knowing that by no means am I perfect. And it causes a lot of suffering. It causes a lot of internal suffering that really starts to hold on to it. So as I look back in the last year or so, and I look back now, I've had 5 jobs, right? Or I'm starting my 5th job on Monday. Crazy, right? In a year, right? So I think it's kind of crazy. And I start to look at that as kind of crazy. The first thing I told myself was, man, there's something wrong. Like, you've got 5 jobs, right? And a lot of people told me, hey, it's pretty impressive. You have 5 jobs, right? And these are 5, really good jobs that I've been able to have. And, I don't always look at it that way. I look at myself and I say, hey, what can I do better? What am I running from, right? And it's this constant running away from, these fears, or these, running away from, problems, or, really just kind of running away from myself. And that's what I had to ask myself. Am I running away from, these jobs because of something, within these jobs? And some of it is, and some of it's running away from myself because I'm so afraid of just diving in and enjoying myself and loving life, right? That's why, I want to run away from myself. I struggle sometimes with, the feeling of like just being depressed. Like, I want to go to sleep and just forget everything because my mind runs so much, right? And that's what really caused my anxiety a couple of years ago. I was so, focused on being the perfect person for everybody else that I lost touch with who I am and what I enjoy doing. And what ended up happening was really, me going in and saying, hey, Anthony, it's okay. It's okay that you strive for perfection. It's a great thing, in a sense, to try to be perfect, but just know that you can't be perfect. Nobody is perfect. Nobody was made to be perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to learn lessons. We're all going to be the best we can be. And I think that's what we all start to run away from, is we start to run away from what seems hard, right? And the hardest thing to do is look within yourself and be self-aware of the things that are going on around you. And that was the crazy thing. It just popped in my mind while I was walking was, I'm running away from myself. I'm running away from problems. I'm running away from, this guilt that I shouldn't have of guilt, right? There's a situation where I'm not talking to some of my family, right? And I feel guilty and I feel like this pain inside. And I'm like, man, why, what should I do? And I know that, I'm doing, and people won't understand. And I don't know if any of you guys are not talking to family or anything, but it's so hard not to, right? Because you're always told from the day you're born that, hey, your family's the best that you've got. Your family should be there. Your family's this and that, right? And, for me, I feel so guilty by not talking to parts of my family because I don't, feel like it's a great environment for me to be in and where I'm at. And, for the longest time with the perfection, I feel selfish, right? That I'm looking out for myself because I love people. I care about people. I genuinely care so much about people, whether it's people I meet on the streets, whether it's people I work with, whether it's, my family, my friends, whoever that looks like, my coworkers, right? There are people that I love just being around and I love helping them and them helping me. And, it creates this great, kind of group of people. But I've noticed that, I start to feel selfish, right? I start to feel guilty because I'm not, talking to these people. I'm not talking to family, and it sounds crazy, and maybe people don't understand, but, at the end of the day, it's got to be what's best for you. And if you're running away from what's best from you, and that's what I tend to do is run away from the best of me, then you're never going to find happiness, right? I know a lot of people struggle with happiness. And when I look at the world and where people are in their minds, it's very easy to get stuck in negative thinking because of what we are kind of conditioned to, right? We're conditioned to, being around people that treat us like crap and it's okay. Or you see people, setting an example of treating people like crap and bullying people and you think it's okay, right? Because it's okay. It's on the news. It's on, people in the world are doing this, right? It's crazy to see that. But what you've got to be able to do in finding happiness is finding happiness within. When you're able to find happiness within, that suffering starts to go away, right? I look at, me gaining weight. I think a lot of it's from being stressed and I tend to eat, right? I love to eat sweets. I love to eat cakes. I love to eat cupcakes, chocolate, ice cream, frozen yogurt. It's one of my favorite things. But I think now when I'm looking at it, a lot of it's because I have like this I don't know if you want to call it self-hatred for myself, right? I don't, I feel this guilt. I feel this stress. I feel this pressure of myself to be the best I can be and be perfect for everybody. And I know that I cannot be that, but I'm always continually chasing it. It's like, I'm constantly in the circle, right? When we talk about, it's almost insanity. I keep doing the same things over and over again. It's the same thing with the people and the family in my life. I continue to go on this same cycle. I know as I go through this cycle with this family member, what's going to happen is everything's going to be good. It's going to look great. And then all of a sudden, 3 to 6 months down the road, I'm going down that same cycle. I'm getting, talked down to. I'm not being, respected personally. And that's very hard to do from a certain standpoint. So you've got to be able to accept yourself for who you are and accept that you can find happiness without having to run away from yourself. As you start to run away from your problems, guess what? They follow you. And they're never going to go away because guess what? They're in your mind, right? So you've got to be able to look at it and address it, right? I took a second to really kind of, write down, some of the things and the thoughts that I have about myself. And I had to address those and say, hey, is this true about myself? And if it's not true about myself, I've got to be able to let it go and move on. That's the biggest thing. You've got to be able to live life the best you can, live life the best of you, and great things will happen around you. People will, respect that, and people are going to respect you. If you respect yourself, you respect other people, and people will naturally respect you. It's part of the game. It's part of the cycle, right? So you've got to be able to do that, but you've got to be able to address your problems head on. And that's what most of us aren't doing. We, tend to just kind of shut our mouth. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Silence. Right? We kind of hold on to these things and these feelings and these grudges, and it becomes, this suffering within. You can't be comfortable around people that you should be comfortable with. You can't be honest with the people you can be honest with, right? Your family, your friends, people have known forever. It's very hard to be honest. It's very hard to tell the truth because you hold it in, and it creates this animosity. It creates this resentment, and it becomes really, really ugly, right? And it feels nasty inside. I know we've all been there, right? But we got to start to look with happiness within. So there are so many things that you can do and make sure to focus on you. And it can be scary. It sure is hell scary, right? I hate, almost looking at myself and saying, man, that's me and that's what I'm doing. And that's what I'm doing to myself. And it's scary to even realize that it's you, not somebody else, right? A lot of us love to, blame things on other people. It's so much easier to deflect things onto other people. But when we take a responsibility within ourselves and answer those questions for ourselves, we will find the best us we can find. And that's what we got to do. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to stop running away from problems, and you've got to address them. Those problems will always follow you around if you don't address the problem. If there's an issue, guess what? It's okay to get uncomfortable, right? It's going to be uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Be comfortable having uncomfortable conversations with people, right? That's what's going to happen. And you'll be so surprised at the things that do come out of it. Things grow, relationships grow. It's amazing to see those things happen. And sometimes I forget that. When I'm most honest with myself and I'm most honest with people, as long as I'm not doing it to be hurtful, great things come out of it. But if I'm trying to be hurtful, or if I am being hurtful towards somebody, guess what? Feelings are going to get hurt. It's going to put a void in the relationship, and it might not be the same because you're not looking out for what's best for everyone, right? But you got to look out for what's best for you, what's best for the relationships you have. Surround yourself with positive people, and positive things will happen around you. But first, the positivity starts within. You can't run away from your problems. Problems are going to always follow you no matter what and no matter where you go, right? And that's what you've got to understand. And that's what you've got to do, right? When I had anxiety, I was constantly it was the weirdest feeling. And I don't know if any of you guys have experienced anxiety. I know some of you guys do because you guys reach out to me about it. But one of the biggest things that I kind of felt like I was like in my body, but out of body experience. Like I wasn't in the room. I wasn't present. I was always off in some other world. It sounds kind of crazy and, kind of weird, but that's what happens. You get so caught up in other things and so worried about other thoughts that you're not even yourself, right? So people look to different things like, alcohol, drugs. You're looking for, caffeine, food. One of my biggest things, comfort, is food, right? I'm so afraid of, alcohol and, prescription drugs and other drugs, because of circumstances in my life that I've seen that affect other people in my life, right? A lot of my family, right? I don't want to touch that stuff because I know where it can lead. Right. And, I'm not saying that stuff is all bad. And it's not like, I'm not saying that I don't drink every once in a while or whatnot. But the biggest thing is that, I've seen those things and I don't want to succumb to those things to alleviate the pressure that I feel within myself. But you got to recognize those things. And it's the same thing with food, right? I comfort eat. I comfort eat the nastiest, dirtiest things I can get my hands on with candy and cake and all this stuff because that's what makes me feel comfortable. So in order for me to lose weight, and I've talked about this in previous shows, guess what? I've got to be able to change my thought process. I've got to be able to answer the problems that I have. And that's what you've got to be able to do. So if you're struggling with these things, or you're struggling with people, or struggling with friends and family, be honest with them and be honest with yourself. Evaluate everything. Evaluate your environment, evaluate your friends, evaluate your family, evaluate everything in your life and see if it is progressive for you, right? And you'll be so surprised at the people that are in your life that you're allowing to be in your life that are really causing a lot of trouble for you. And then that's when you've got to be able to really have critical conversations. You've got to have crucial conversations and be honest and truthful with them. Be sincere. Be sincere with yourself and say, hey, should I surround myself with these people or should I move on? And it's tough. And it's the same thing with yourself. You got to ask yourself some tough questions and be comfortable knowing that some things are going to come up. There have been times where I've brought things up in my mind and I start crying out of uncontrollably, right? Because it's so hurtful. But I've been able to release those things. And that's what really helped me with anxiety was I was able to overcome some of these fears. I was the perfection, the shame, the guilt of, allowing myself not to talk to family or whatever that looks like, right? So you got to be able to chase that and be the best you can be. Stop running away from your problems. Stop running away from yourself. Embrace yourself. Give yourself a hug. Give yourself some love, right? Self-love is the most important thing. You are the only person that is in control of you. Nobody in your mind can control you, right? Your parents don't control you, right? We might think that they have this control over you, but no, you're in control. You control the relationship. You control what that looks like. And if it's a loving relationship, great. If it's not, guess what? Sometimes it's okay to step back and reevaluate, right? Same thing with your friends. If it's a loving relationship, I have a lot of friends that are like family to me. They're, I love them. I have a great time with them. They help me to get better. They help me to see things, in a different way when I was at this, this previous job. There were two people individually that helped me to open my eyes to be better than I can be. Same thing for my wife. She's helped me to grow and be a better person and helped me to understand that, some things in life aren't the way that they need to be, right? Or don't appear the same way that they should be or how you were told. And it's okay to be a little bit different. And that's the great thing about life is you're going to find people, but you've got to first embrace yourself. So stop running away from yourself. So let me leave you this quote. Stop leaving and you will arrive. Stop searching and you will see. Stop running away and you will be found. So find yourself, have self-love with yourself and embrace yourself. Embrace who you are. Embrace every piece of you, the goods, the bads, everything. And great things will happen. So like my page on Facebook, Breathe Motivation. Like my Instagram and Twitter at Breathe Motivate. Check out the website, breathemotivation.com. It's a great new website. I've actually changed that up. So as always, remember to breathe motivation, exhale success. I'll see you next week. Thanks.